awaiting Amy Smith from AMNplify, your 9 interview with Brent Smith. Please go ahead.
All right, thank you. Hi, Brent. Thanks for taking...
Hi, Amy. How are you today, dear?
I am very well, thank you. How are you this morning?
I'm good. I gotta be honest with you. It's like 10 o'clock your time, I believe, but it is, I think I'm a day behind. It's like 8 o'clock at night where I'm at.
Oh, so where in the world are you calling from today?
I actually just got off tour yesterday. We've got about a week before we go to Europe for the entire month of June. So I'm actually in a city called Knoxville in a state in the U.S. called Tennessee. I'm actually here to see my mom and my dad and my only living grandmother.
Oh.
And I only get a chance to see them as much as I would like to, so I popped into town to see them for a little bit.
That's amazing. Well, it's nice that you get a little bit of downtime between tour dates.
Yeah, I mean, we've been going since March of this year, but we started, just a lot. There's a lot that's transpired, from the beginning of the year to where we are now. But, this is actually the first, break we've actually had. It's not super, super long, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, just a bit of time to recharge. Yeah. Well, all right. Well, I'd like to talk...
Absolutely.
I'd like to talk to you about your most recent record, Attention, Attention. So, it's been a few... Sorry? It's been out...
No, I was just saying, okay, shoot. By the way, you can ask me anything you want. Nothing's taboo with me, so fire away.
Awesome. So, it's been out for a few weeks now. This has given people the chance to really give it a good listen and digest the material. How do you feel about its reception so far?
I think that the reception so far, just from a global standpoint, overall has been pretty positive. The dynamic of this album, because it was the first album in our repertoire, it's our 6th record, but it's the first album that we self-produced. Our bass player, Eric Bass, who's way more than just a bass player, produced Attention, Attention, and he also mixed the album as well. So even in the beginning stages of the writing process, as we were writing the album and figuring out that it wasn't going to be a traditional Shinedown record because it's not what you would call a concept record. Mm-hmm. It is a story album because the whole album takes place inside of a room. But the dynamic of everything on this record, we looked at everything from a very international standpoint. We really wanted to focus on writing a record that the world could embrace. Because the fact of the matter is, to us, it's a very urgent record. It's a very necessary album. And, for the whole record is about not being afraid to fail. I think a lot of times people will pigeonhole themselves into a corner and they will paralyze themselves psychologically if they want to achieve something they've never done before. They will start to second guess themselves. And I don't think people will be defined by their failures. I think you'll be defined by the fact that you don't give up. So definitely this early on, because the record came out May 4th, we're starting to see a very healthy heartbeat around the fact that people are genuinely understanding that this album is a story and that there's a lot of depth to the record. So far it seems to be being embraced quite well.
Fantastic. Thanks for... I was just going to say, I get the impression that you had a very, very clear mission with this release, right down to the album title and the artwork.
Yes, the artwork was extremely important, actually. We worked with a gentleman named Mark Obreski, and Mark actually did the album artwork and the cover for the last album, which was an album called Threat to Survival. And when we started to talk about the record, and we knew the name of the album was going to be Attention, Attention. Of course, there's a song on the album that's very important on the record called Attention, Attention, but we had all these kind of ethereal names for the record, and what I mean by that is really just too complicated, and Zach came in one day and was like, why are we banging our heads against trying to be clever with this, extensively long, album title? It's just call it Attention, Attention, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to call attention to the world. And we all kind of just looked at Zach and was like, all right. So once we had the name, then it was like, okay, what is the symbol going to be to this? And Eric, we walked into the studio one day, and Eric, we have all these dry erase boards everywhere in the studio, and also like, you know, chalkboards. Everyone's always writing ideas down, song titles, just stuff everywhere. And he just wrote attention side by side, and he put an exclamation point in the middle of it. And I was like, that's it. It's an exclamation point. And he's like, well, no, not like this. I'm like, well, maybe not that, but we're going to design our own exclamation point. And so when we went back to Mark, we talked about, it wasn't built around propaganda, and it wasn't built around like this idea of, you know, make it political, because there's actually nothing in attention that's political at all. This is it's a very silent record, but we wanted there to be a symbol where you don't even need to see the name of the band on the front. All you gotta see is what the cover is and what the symbol is. And if you notice on the record, if you've seen pictures of the vinyl, or if you have the vinyl or the CD or what have you, the name Shinedown and or the name of the album is actually not on the front. It's just the exclamation point with the yellow background, but that was done on purpose to, you know, really foreshadow the symbol that this is an urgent record, it's a necessary record. So from that side and an artistic point, you know, we did exactly what we wanted to do, and we're achieving it so far.
That's great, and it is very effective, so you've achieved that. So Brent, you've never been one to shy away from heavy lyrical content. I mean, Sound of Madness still means a lot to me personally because of its brutal honesty. Like, I was going through some pretty heavy stuff when that came out and had a tendency to wallow in self-pity. That song came along and it was like a swift kick in the ass. But it's...
Just the album itself, or just the song, Sound of Madness? Are you talking about the whole album?
Well, the album means a lot, but that song particularly.
You're talking about the song Sound of Madness was a good swift kick in the ass.
That's right, yeah.
That's cool. That song still kicks me in the ass too from time to time.
But it's that brutal honesty, which is also very apparent in Attention, which people connect with. And it makes us feel like we're not so alone. And that, it opens up some much needed dialogue. So, do you feel that people are more willing to have this conversation, more so than in previous years?
I wanted to make sure from a lyrical standpoint that everybody that heard the record knew that there were no limits to the subject matter, because the album is a journey. It's a story. And the whole record takes place inside of a room. There's a reason why Devil starts the album off. And if you've seen the Devil video, the audio of the machine in the background and the door, you know, being knocked on, the door opening, you hear the person walk in, pull up the chair, take a deep breath, and exhale, and then immediately Devil starts. And seeing those visuals, because not only from an audio standpoint have we told the story of Attention, but visually, because the only other video is the Human Radio right now, but all of the songs are going to have an accompaniment of a visual as well. So we're actually going to not only sonically tell the story, we're going to visually tell the story as well. But I needed to make sure that everything came from my gut, basically. Because of the album, I can only write about what I know. And because I don't really pull things out of thin air, because I'm the main lyricist in the band. So it has to be something that I've gone through, or I've dealt with, or I've watched someone else go through, and I've seen what it's done to them or what it didn't do to them. And the fact of the matter is, you know, once again, it's a record about not being afraid to fail. I don't think that people are going to be defined by their failures. I think you'll be defined by the fact that you don't give up. But you can't be quiet all the time. I don't think you should be quiet. If you have something to say, if there's something that means the world to want to express it, then do it. You know what I mean? And I know it's difficult for some people because they don't have encouragement, maybe from this and that or the other. Sometimes it's the world can be a very it can be tricky. You know what I mean? It can be a tough place to navigate. But inside of that, like opening up these conversations, when you talk about songs like "Get Up" on Attention, and then if you listen to the album, when you hear "Get Up," the next song is this very interesting song called "Special," where "Get Up" makes a return at the back half of that song, and then you have this album that's laid out a very specific way because it's meant to be psychological, it's meant to be emotional, it's not meant to cover anything up, it's actually meant to expose everything. And that can be scary for people sometimes. They don't want to look at reality.
Yeah.
And what I don't want people to lose, though, and I think this is something that the real heart of what attention is the fact that I don't want people to lose their humanity. You know what I mean? I don't want them to just the act of what me and you are doing right now, which is really, really gorgeous and really beautiful. We're just having a conversation. Like, I watch society not know how to have a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
Because they have to text them or they call people out online, and everybody has an opinion now and everybody has a platform, and that's all fine and good, but it's way easier to just get on the bandwagon and do what everybody else is doing and be negative than it is to try to find that positivity inside something and figure out a solution. Yeah. And that's, I think, what people get afraid of. They don't want to say something and feel like they're going to be an outcast. Guess what? I've been an outcast my whole life, and I'm freaking proud of it. Yeah. So, and I don't look at that word as like a negative and, like you're being branded with something evil or negative. It just means that you think outside the box, and that's my whole outlook on this album too. It's like, don't be afraid of who you are. You know what I mean? It's like, embrace that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Attention, it's quite different from previous releases in Shinedown's back catalogue for a few different reasons. As you said, it's a story album, and it's also been entirely internally produced. So what were some of the challenges you faced during the process of creating this album?
Well, I think some of the challenges might have been the guys, especially Eric, waiting on me with certain lyrics. I really want to answer this question truthfully. Not that I wouldn't answer it truthfully, but I want to make sure that I put it in the right frame of mind. This was an album because once I figured out that it was a story, I had to be very careful with, at least in my opinion, who I talked about. Because the only thing I knew how to talk, the only thing I could do was talk about what I know. And there was a moment, and not to bring up Get Up again, but there's a reason why bringing up Get Up is important. Me and Eric had worked on the music for what that became, and then I was to work on the lyrics. And normally I'm about a day and a half, 2 days with lyrics. Sometimes I'll get a gift, and a gift is where like a song writes itself, literally music and lyrics, melody and all, like 30 minutes. Those are what we call gifts. They don't happen very often. But it took me about 7 days to finally walk in and sing Eric the lyrics and the melody to Get Up. And finally the day that I walked in and did it, because he was getting aggravated with me, he was like, just come in and sing it. What the hell are you so afraid of? And I'm like, I don't know, man. And he said, just come in and do it. I'm like, alright. So I come in, because I told him, I was like, I've got something, I just don't know what you're going to think. He was like, just let me hear it. I said, no, is the mic live? In the studio, and he's like, the mic's always live. And so I walked in, I was like, let's just record it. So we recorded it, took about 4.5 hours, and then Eric put the song together, the vocals and stuff like that, did the mix on the demo and what have you. He's like, come back tomorrow. tomorrow, like around this same time tomorrow. I'm like, all right. So I call him about an hour and a half out, and I'm like, is it ready? And Eric was like, yeah, it's ready. Come and take a listen to it. So we came in, and I listened to it get played back, and I was really enamored by what he had done, just from a production side and everything. But I looked at him and I said, do you know what this song is about? And Eric looked at me and he said, yeah, I know what it's about. It's about me. And that was a huge icebreaker, because once I was told that it's okay, like, write about what you know, and if you gotta write about me, then write about me. Because Eric suffers from depression, clinical depression. And that's what Get Up is about. It's about Eric, and about what he faces on a daily basis. And Get Up was one of the more earlier songs written for what became Attention, but that was kind of the sounding board of, okay, all bets are off, nothing's taboo, and if we're going to go for it, then let's just go for it. And just be unapologetic about everything. As far as like Sonic and, you know, bringing certain people in, were there any challenges like with the band and what have you? Eric was an incredible producer, because Eric's done productions for us before. Like, he produced Cut the Cord off of Threat to Survival. He produced and wrote Diamond Eyes. He did Her Name Is Alice. He's done, you know, quite a few songs and written quite a few songs. But like, from a production standpoint, there was never a day when he walked in where he didn't know what to do, or he wasn't taking the captain's chair and, you know, getting everything put together the way that it needs to be done. We have a different relationship with our record label. Atlantic Records has never bothered us. You know, this is our 6th record. And one thing that Julie Greenwald in America, and, you know, Max Lasada, who runs the international umbrella of Warner Music, and Craig Kalman, they've never rushed us. They've never told us to, like, hurry up. You know, Julie's always like, you can turn it in when it's ready. So from that, you know, that's trust also between us and them, and, you know, we're a family too. So we have a different relationship with our record label. We know sometimes bands and other artists will kind of bash their labels or what have you. That's not us. We hold the Atlantic Record and the Warner Music Group flag very, very high. They've always allowed us to be ourselves.
That's awesome. You're very, very lucky. That's awesome. And thank you for that in-depth answer. Congratulations on the record. It's fantastic. It is quite an ambitious release, though, especially with the current climate being a single-driven market, you know, with the uprising of streaming services like Spotify.
That doesn't really affect us, because we're not, I understand absolutely what you're talking about in regards to streaming, in regards to, you know, the single mentality. But we made an album, and of course you're going to have, we hope, I mean, we have a pretty extensive catalog, and, you know, we're probably in the top 5 most streamed rock bands, if not bands, you know, in the music industry, depending on the market you look at. But we also are something that is kind of an anomaly in an industry that's trying to consistently go digital and get rid of physical records. And I do mean like vinyl and or CDs, but especially vinyls. We're still a band that's, you had to break it down to like dollars and cents, or you had to break it down to like actual percentage. We're probably still about 60% physical from, you know, all different nations and all different countries. There's something about this band that people do want to hold. And I watch a younger generation now too that is like, wait a minute, there's another way to experience listening to music, and they're finding out about like vinyl, which is amazing in a lot of ways, because that's about as retro as it gets. You know, and but to see this younger generation kind of all of a sudden, you know, because that for me is something very, very exciting, especially when a kid, you know, or a younger person, male or female, wants to be in music, you know, because I go back to when I was a kid, and the one thing you can't replace is that feeling of like looking at an album artwork and looking at the band or looking at the artist and then reading the liner notes or reading the lyrics for that matter. Like, I remember being a kid looking into it going, you know, who engineered it? Where was it? Where did they record it? Who recorded that kind of stuff meant something to me. But in the same breath, you know, with having this kind of technology and having it to the simple fact of, you know, people are becoming desensitized necessarily to the influx of just the amount of music and different artists that are out in the world, I think that an album is probably what stands out more than anything. So that's why I think attention, you know, 2 years from now, you know, I don't want to jinx anything, but I think it's going to be looked at as a very necessary piece of art that the world really, really needed to be made. So that's why we made it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Sorry to interrupt, CME. Sorry, this is going to have to be your last question.
Oh no! Okay, I'm gonna have to say, so the last time I saw Shinedown live was at the 2010 Soundwave tour. So, am I correct in believing that was the first and only Australian tour?
You would be absolutely correct. And that is not by design. We have been tirelessly this year and last year well, let's put it this way, we are definitely at the drawing board. We want everybody to know down under that we have not under any circumstances forgotten about Australia, and we are doing our due diligence to figure out exactly how to be able to come back to the down under, but to be able to bring everybody in Australia the show that they deserve, especially after 8 years. Yeah. You know, so we're working on it right now. We're trying to figure out the best way to do it. A lot of bands here in the United States have been talking to each other a lot more about Australia. I'll be honest with you, bands like, you know, Avenged Sevenfold, Five Finger Death Punch, Godsmack. You know, me and David Draymond have been talking about Australia for a little over a year now. You know, in the works of, you know, being able, because you got to go down there with a package. You know what I mean? That's the thing with us is we're like, you can't, because it costs money. You know what I mean? And we want to be able to play and build a show for the Australian audience that is deserving of, you know, the fact that it has been 8 years since we've been there. But we are working on it. I don't want people to think that we're not. And we do have a massive admiration for the Australian audience, so we're working on it.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to hear that. Again, congratulations on the new record. It really is a great piece of work.
Thank you.
Brent, I hope to see you in Australia soon. And thanks for taking the time to chat with me today.
You're an absolute, you are just super, super cool to talk to. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to speak with me as well. And I look forward to seeing you very, very much sooner than later. So thank you again.
All right, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Amy.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Amy. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.